What's up guys, girls, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be looking at 15 things I've learned about gravel riding in my first 60 days. So I'm going to be looking at things like what you need to get started with gravel riding, some beginner tips and tricks to do with the gear, the routes, etc, and just generally my thoughts and feedback on how I found it in the first couple of months. Now, to give some context, I am a roadie. I've been riding on the road for a year and a half, 2 years. Really enjoy that. Bought a gravel bike 2 months ago and I've loved that as well. So I thought I would do this video to help you guys and girls out there. As with all my videos, I don't want you to see these points as a blocker to stop you getting on a bike. You don't need to have all these things. It's just my observations that are trying to help you understand what it's like. So if anything, see them as positive ways and positive things to get yourself on a gravel bike and enjoy another discipline. Point number 1 is tyre clearance. Now, realistically, what makes a gravel bike is the tyres. It's very similar to a road bike, and obviously the geometry is a bit more relaxed, but the tyres are key. Now, the width of the tyres specifically. So if you have a gravel bike that can take a 43mm tyre, you're going to have a broad selection of tyres for your gravel bike, and you can pretty much choose what you want. If your gravel bike only takes up to say a 38, it's going to start getting tight and you'll be limited on the type of tyres that you can have. Now, this isn't necessarily a problem, but it is a consideration and one to think about. As a general rule of thumb, I think a 40mm tyre is a good width to have and a good all-round tyre. Number 2, now this is coming from a roadie. It's less about speed and more about comfort. Now, this becomes pretty apparent pretty quickly when you're going over tree roots and bumps. The terrain is changing and you realize that on a gravel bike, how fast you can go is very much dependent on how comfortable you are. If your tires are softer and you're more comfortable on the bike, you can actually carry more speed over the bumps. So it's a different kind of thought process when it comes to speed and how far you can actually travel on your gravel bike. So that is one difference and something to consider. Point number 3 is frame geometry. Now, there is a great tool called geometry.bike, I think, something like that. I will pop it up on screen now, where you can compare frame geometry. Now, I've done this to compare to my road bike. Now, to summarize against road bikes normally typically have a shorter wheelbase and steeper angles for nimble ride quality and lively handling. Gravel bikes, on the other hand, have a longer wheelbase and slacker head angle to add stability and slow down the handling for negotiating technical obstacles and loose descents. So the frame geometry is different. If you are coming from a mountain bike or a road bike, then thinking a size 54 is going to fit you. It might be different, so do try different frames if you can and work out what frame is best for you. The 4th tip about gravel riding is be prepared to get dirty. It's just how it is. You have to clean your bike all the time, pretty much after every ride. To be honest, on road bikes, there's no harm in cleaning your bike after every ride, but on gravel, you'll literally get covered. You have to wash your gear. So when you get the bike, buy some stuff to wash your bikes quickly if you can, or just be prepared, and have a technique that you can give it a 5-minute wash when you get home to keep your gravel bike in tip-top condition. Point number 5 is about brakes. Now, I would say that most gravel bikes have disc brakes, and I would advise having disc brakes. Going back to the previous point, it's very dirty, very muddy. You're often going through puddles potentially as well in the winter, and your rims are going to get dirty. And if you're braking on that rim, it's not going to be as good as disc brakes. There are a lot of gravel bikes now, pretty much all of them come with disc brakes. Point number 6, and this isn't something I'd considered that much about gravel riding, is that it's a sense of adventure you get with the riding, which is very different to road riding. I know road riding is adventurous, but you can follow a route on the map. It's a bit more structured. With gravel, you can go to a forest and you can go for miles and miles and just think, hey, I'm just going to turn left here, I'm going to turn right here. And before you know it, you're just exploring. So it has a kind of bigger sense of adventure in that regard. Now, I really like that. And if you like that too, and you like being out in the sort of wilderness, so to speak, then this is perfect for you and for me. So it is a sense of adventure. It's kind of different. It has a different mindset when you jump on the bike, which I really like. I like to have the option of the road, which I find a bit more structured and go, and gravel, I can just ride to Epping Forest in East London and I can just ride for miles and miles and miles and not really have a clue where I'm going. It's just enjoying where you are. So Gravel riding is adventurous. Point number 7, it's more technical. What do I mean by this? I mean the actual riding is more technical. The terrain is forever changing. You may have very dry terrain, wet terrain, bumpy, different types of gravel, mud. It can be compact, it can be loose. All of those things require quite a lot of thought. So when you jump on gravel, if you've come from the road, be prepared to have the different terrain just coming at you. I really like that. It means you kind of focusing on what you're doing. But yeah, it can get technical, and I just think that's an enjoyable thing. I think it makes you a better rider. You use different muscles to stabilize. Just get used to that and expect to have that when you are on your gravel bike. Embrace it and enjoy. Point number 8, and this goes back to an earlier point about tires. Mud and gravel are two different things. In the winter here in the UK, things get pretty damp pretty quick, and riding in the mud is very different to riding on nice dry bridleways. So if you are riding in mud, the first point kind of has more of an impact. You need bigger tires to get more grip, but no matter what, your tires will slip if you're going through thick mud. So in the winter, remember that and kind of get the right tires for the right terrain. There's a correlation here. You can see tires, terrain, it's all varying. It's a bit more complex. Point number 8, if you have clip-in pedals, make sure that they are loose and you can unclip really, really quickly. I thought that when I got my bike, my pedals were really loose, and I thought, you know what, I can pretty much just like lift my foot out. I thought they were too loose, nearly tightened them. But you know what? I'm glad I didn't, because that first time where you jolt or you lose your balance and your foot goes out, you need them to be loose. Now, if you come from road bikes, you're used to them being relatively tight. If you have SBD type cleats on your shoes, you're used to being locked into your bike. This isn't the case with gravel. You want to be obviously on the mountain bike style pedals where you can clip in both sides, and you need to be able to unclip pretty quickly, especially if the terrain you're on is a bit more undulating and a bit more unforgiving. So bear that in mind. Keep your cleats nice and loose, especially if you are new to the gravel. Next point, route planning is very, very different. I found that I really planned my first ride and I was going to Epping Forest and I had a nice 25-mile route. And before I knew it, I was thinking, I want to go down that path. I want to go down this path. This looks good. So I think what I realized is your route can kind of take you to a location, but once you're there, you can kind of explore, which goes back to previous points about exploration, which is really, really nice to do. So I found myself being more and more loose with it, and like kind of the route that I pick is just a route through sort of nice areas that I want to explore. Then when I get somewhere, I'm not afraid to just go off the beaten path and go and explore a different track that looks good. The world's your oyster, peeps. Go to the forest and just ride. Go wherever the wind takes you. Next up, it is a different discipline and it does require different motor skills. Now what that means is you're going to ache in different places. Think about on a road bike, you're used to being in the same position, it's quite set. Then all of a sudden you go on gravel and you're literally out the seat, stabilizing, try not to fall off. You're pumping up hills in a different way. I found that in the first week or two of riding gravel, I was riding gravel and road, I was actually aching quite a lot. My body was hurting. I was thinking, I feel tired, But then I realized, you're doing a lot more stabilizing and a lot more work for your core. So bear that in mind. It is a different discipline. It can be taxing on your body. This next point is one that I learned from a young age when I was riding motorbikes, and that is to look where you want to go. Because what can happen is if you focus literally down in front of your wheel, and this is the same for road, to be honest, as well, you can lose track of being smooth through corners. So you want to actually keep an eye on where you want to go and then obviously look down. You don't just want to be looking down thinking, what's going on there, unless it's really technical, obviously. But when you're riding, kind of look where you want to go. If you want to go around a sweeping bend, do that. Don't be worried too much. Try and have faith in your tires. It took a bit of getting used to for me. On road, I'm happy to do that. I'm always looking ahead, sort of where I'm going, check the road, and then if I want to go around the corner, you want to look at the exit of the corner and try and follow your bike round. It's the same for gravel, and if you do that, it kind of makes it nice and sweeping. You can kind of flow rather than being like, oh yeah, over that bump. You can look ahead and think, you can try and dart around. That is one from my motorbike days, and it rings true for cycling as well. Next up, covering more miles on gravel, riding further on gravel is harder than on the road. Now, this may sound quite obvious, but it does actually have quite a big effect. If you are used to riding, say, 20 miles on the road, maybe a 10-15 mile ride on gravel would be the equivalent. Remember, it's sapping a lot of your energy, the tyres aren't as firm, you don't have as good a rolling resistance. So bear that in mind. Now, the first ride I done was 25 miles. And when I got back, I felt honestly like I'd done 40-50 mile ride. It's not quite the same. So another consideration when getting into gravel riding. Lastly, I just want to mention that it is a very different riding experience, and that is enjoyable. A lot of people stick to one discipline, and I wasn't sure whether to buy the gravel bike or just buy another road bike or a better road bike or upgrade. But you know what? I'm pleased I did buy the gravel bike, because that feeling that I had when I got my road bike, I remember riding it down the road for the first time thinking, this is going to be brilliant, this is going to be good fun. I had that exact same feeling when I rode on the first bit of gravel. I thought, you know what? This is going to be good, this is going to be adventurous. And all of the gear, the bikes, the skills, and new things that you learn and can improve upon, I enjoy that. I enjoy that learning curve. I enjoy improving and getting better. And I love the technical side as well. So it's more bike gear to look at, more improvements that I can make to the bike. So that is actually a very big thing. And if you're looking for a sense of adventure, as I said previously, then buying a gravel bike will give you that, to be honest. And it could just reinvigorate you and give you a different option to going out and riding on the road or riding your mountain bike. So having a new experience and something new for yourself is good. It's good for the mind, body, and the soul. That concludes this video. If you made it this far, as always, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more bike related content. And until the next one, self-love and safe riding.